You are mentoring a friend who is currently a project manager and is considering a switch into project controls. What advice would you give? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Beyond Deadlines podcast, where we tackle challenges that planning and schedule leaders come across on a day-to-day basis. My name is Micah, and I'm a planning and scheduling manager for Intel.
And my name's Greg Lawton. I'm the CEO of an AI schedule management company called Nose and Links.
I'm Chirag Shah. I've been in recruitment for 18 years, all focused in project controls, and I recently set up my own consultancy, Pace Global.
Amazing. Today, Chirag is on the hot seat, and we are here talking about how to help a friend switch roles. Chirag, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thanks.
You are mentoring a friend who is currently a project manager and is considering a switch into project controls. What advice would you give?
Firstly, there's no better time to move into project controls. The demand for good project controls professionals is so high at the moment. If you're working, whichever sector you're in, if you're a project manager looking to get into project controls, try and stay in the sector you're in. Initially, probably stay with the same employer as well if you can, get an internal transition, and understand the difference between project management and project controls. Essentially, project management tends to be the delivery side and a general overview of multi-disciplines, being electrical, mechanical, project controls, contracts and procurement. Project controls is the niche of project management. So understand, what makes a project stay on track with respect to time, budget, cost, things like that. The main thing I would say firstly is, network, find a good mentor, find someone in your organization or on the team, the project you're on, who you feel is the best project controller there, and learn from them. Ask to do tasks, take time out of your day to do the extra work that you wouldn't be doing in your general day. And that's what's going to get you going. And then in the background, I would suggest, looking at, where are your gaps in terms of transitioning from a PM to a planner or a project control specialist. Pick up the software knowledge, do that, because as a project PM, you probably get to grips with the basics very quickly. Go on courses. There's so much online now. You can go to Project Controls Academy, things like that, and really get the software, the technical side behind you. But the understanding of projects you should hopefully already have. And just continuous learning is the key, I would say.
Sure, I'm gonna double click and push down as we do on Beyond Deadlines here. Give me some numbers. Put some numbers behind this. Why do people go from project management into project controls?
It's like a doctor. If you're a GP and you go into specialism, you're going to get paid more money at the end of the day. That's number one, I would say.
So people move to get paid more money as number one?
I would generally think so. I think the more niche you are, at the end of the day, your skill set's more in demand. If you're going to end up becoming a forensic planner, for example, you can probably command a lot of money down the line once you're a full expert in that field.
Okay. What other reasons do people have for moving into project controls?
They may be, as a project manager, just think that while they've got that overall scope and responsibility, what they're actually delivering, their actual input isn't enough. Whereas you want to see a project come in on time and to budget. And if you're involved in the project controls phase, you're able to kind of dictate how long you've got, what type of costing you can put in to your client and things like that. So you've got a bit more ownership.
And what obviously we could start with this on this episode of the podcast. Can you define project controls for me? Because you've mentioned forensic planning there. You've mentioned setting up elements of estimating. So you've mentioned estimating. What exact roles sit under your definition of project controls?
So the key roles that sit under project controls manager, of course, planning engineer, cost engineer, data and reporting analyst to a certain extent, because a lot of this, the project controls reports, what comes out, needs to be articulated and reported back, and document control. They are the key roles that sit within a project controls team, and risk as well. Risk
I was going to
was
say, where's risk? So you've got
yeah,
risk scheduling, cost,
yeah,
document, and
control.
reporting.
Yeah. And risk used to be an outlier. It didn't really sit with project controls teams before. It was kind of on its own. And then as soon as COVID hit and people realized we need to measure risk on projects now, then it quickly joined the project controls family. And every sector, every project has now got a risk manager within a project controls team.
Let's say I looked around and I was sitting in my company, looked around for project controls roles, didn't see any, there weren't any available, and now I'm having to go external. Can you walk me through some of those tactical steps? I mean, you listed off a lot of great information in your intro, but what is those kind of first things you do as you start to position yourself for an external transition?
Yeah, depending on your industry experience, you'll have worked with people in different organizations and you should have a network. So it's again reaching out to that network. There's so many people out there that are happy to help out and pay it forward. So firstly, if you're most people on this podcast will be on LinkedIn. Have a look, seek who's in your network out there, and also see who's posting on LinkedIn within your network that's in project controls, because they're probably the ones that are out there a little bit and happy to have a chat with you and give you some initial advice. So that's what I would say is the starting point.
And when you say reach out, I would like just to be painfully direct.
Yeah.
When you say reaching out, you mean go on LinkedIn, message that person, ask if they have roles in their, like, how would you phrase that message?
No, I would just say, look, hey, I notice you may have a connection, you may have worked together, be friends in the past, and just reach out, just find something that you've just got in common from before, or simply just say, hey, I noticed your post on this. It'd be great to have a chat. I'm currently a project manager looking to get into project controls, keen to get your advice. Could you spare some time to have a chat, a virtual coffee, or if you're in the locality, meeting up as well. That it's literally one message and just see what they say and respond with.
Right.
Okay, so you've reached out. What do you do then?
Hopefully they'll respond, but I would say probably reach out to a few people, get a few different ideas, and just see what they say about what are the steps you should be taking. There's so many people out there that will help. Even reach out to me. I can introduce you to a few people depending what country you're in as well, and then it's just about getting on that learning journey and really taking that time out. If you're really serious about moving from, for example, project management to project controls, and just get yourself skilled up, get the knowledge within you. That's
what are some of those top resources? I'll let you go in a second, Greg. What are some? Maybe you can pour that whiskey while you're waiting. What are some of those top resources you'd recommend? I mean, there is a load of information out there. Is there any couple courses or any sort of sites that you would recommend that stand above the others?
Yeah, sure. So I think, especially in the States, Project Controls Academy, what they've done over the last 5-6 years, fantastic. They provide initial free training courses, and then there's the paid for after that. But there's plenty of people on there.
Is that Michael who runs that?
Cameron and Shorey.
Cameron. Okay.
Yeah. If you want pure P6 planning advice, Primavera, then Michael LaPlage is definitely your man. Plan Academy is number 1, 100%. So between those two sites I would run to if you want to be a planner or project controls. And then there's also the Controls Hub, which is a website I've actually developed and been part of, that just gives, there's some blogs on there, some articles, and there's also a mentor section. So even if you don't know anyone, get onto the mentor side and there'll be plenty of people to help, and you'll be introduced to someone for the area you want to specialize in. So it's really easy today to find that person. And then again, the biggest development we've had obviously over the last 18 months is AI, ChatGPT. So again, plugging it into ChatGPT about what should I be doing? This is where I'm at. This is where I want to get to. Can you give me your best advice and how to go about that? Give me step-by-step guide. That would really help you as well.
Well, maybe to feed the GPT engine right now, I'd like to flip it around the other way. So, Chirag, your day job is you actually work with the world's largest companies to find people within those project controls roles and get them jobs in those companies. What in the last 3 roles you placed, which I've heard about your numbers, was probably this afternoon. The last 3 roles you placed, what did the winning candidate have that got them the job? Very specifics.
So I would, again, some clients say we hire for attitude, not for skill. We can teach the skill, and what I would say is that is true. If you've the candidate that's got the best attitude and has got their foundations right, they're the ones that are gonna do well and get the job. What I would say to people listening as well, it's not all about money, depending about where you are in your career. So this is very much focused, this conversation about a transition role from project manager to project controls. Think about, if you are interviewing elsewhere and making that transition, which is the company that is going to go and develop you the best, that's going to invest in you? Who gives you that feeling, that gut in your gut instinct? That's what's going to make it happen. But going back to your question, Greg, it's the candidate's attitude. We have seen such a turnaround since COVID, where the biggest negative feedback I get from clients is people want to know about the hybrid working and things like that. And look, I agree, there needs to be a balance, and I will never work with a client that wants everyone on site 5 days unless it's a real site role. But if it's an office-based job, a hybrid element is fine. But that's not what the focus should be. Candidates should be there wanting that job, and that's what clients want to see.
Can you talk a little bit more about attitude? You mentioned there's a want for the job.
Yeah.
What are some other either personality traits or actions that demonstrate that sort of attitude?
So, for example, if you're preparing for an interview, because it's very easy nowadays for that interview to happen. Before COVID, 95% of my interviews were face to face. You're taking time out of your day. You have to take a day off work. You have to go to the office. So your round trip's going to be 4 hours. Getting there, going to the interview, getting back home, and all of that. So now a Teams interview, you're logging on, it's an hour. So people can take it too relaxed and just, oh yeah, I'm just got this interview, that's it. Preparation is so key, and that then your attitude comes through that. So understanding about the company, who the interviewer is, because it's so easy to find on LinkedIn, for example, what they've done, their background, and just understanding a bit about them. And then understanding, what do you want in your career as well? Like, there's so much about work-life balance at the moment, and if you're in the early stages of your career, you should just be wanting to learn, take the extra time out, do the extra tasks needed. And then obviously when you're a bit more advanced and you've got a family, it is finding that balance between your work life, your home life, and everything. I think, all 3 of us are guilty. You would probably put a bit too much into everything, but like right now we're doing our extracurricular tasks, and we all learn on the back of this, and it's getting that right, getting the attitude right. In the UK, we run the Project Connect group, which is a face-to-face networking event. Getting out there, being seen, network. It's those type of traits in attitude. Reaching out to people, you'll learn so much. Trying to be confident and finding those mentors external to your own company as well. It will just make your career. It'll be a catalyst to really fast forward your career.
You can go, Micah. I'm just thinking. Well,
Okay.
Sure. So when we stop, that's why we have a pause.
Yeah, no,
because I want to jump in with it. I want to jump in with a bunch of stuff.
Greg got the finger up in the air, and I thought he was giving the Dikembe Mutombo. No, Micah, don't talk.
No. Well, okay.
Well,
right.
Let me ask you. I got one that's interesting for people to stand out and think about, which has worked well in my previous career and roles. And I learned it years ago, and it's called the briefcase technique. And essentially, without going on too long of a story, but at a certain point in time, you provide whoever you're interviewing with an example of the work you can do that's actually material. And it used to be a little bit trickier when it was in-person interviews, because you'd have to bring like PDFs and pieces of paper. But now with virtual interviews, I think there's this opportunity to do that again. And so if an interview is really interested in, like, I have these Microsoft project schedules that I really want to transition into P6, or I'm really looking for resource loading. Do you think that could be a potential? And I know it's a little bit of a wild idea for someone to actually have a portfolio, almost like an artist or an architect, and bring that with them in an interview and use it in an appropriate manner?
Yeah, and guess what the trick here is? What's the benefit for the candidate? A Teams interview nowadays is only an hour maximum. It won't go beyond that very rarely because people have other things in their diary now. Whereas if you're in a face-to-face setting, people would talk longer and it would just carry on going. The beauty, if you have got that evidence and that portfolio, you've done the work, so you're in control. So you can go through and talk about this plan that you've created, the schedule. You can talk about how you went through it, the process you went through. And because you did it, the best way of learning is by doing it yourself. So you'll be so confident talking about it. You'll take 10, 15 minutes of that interview where you've really delivered, you've done a great job in that interview talking about that, and you used up 25% of the time as well.
I really like that idea, and I really like to pull on it. Just serendipitously, today I actually created the banding and promotion structures for a department in my company. And the frame of reference, and I just want to give this frame of reference of the hiring manager, because I think last year we screened 15,000 candidates for jobs. Yeah, at first initial stage. But what I'm looking for is I am trying to de-risk the business as much as possible. I'm trying to limit downside so that the team has the opportunity for upside. So I'm thinking here, what evidence do I need to see that makes me confident that this will not be a bad decision? It's fine being an okay decision. It's even better being a great decision. But I'm specifically trying to find things that are bad decisions and weed them out. And what this kind of thing is saying to me is, you're basically showing me that you're not a bad choice. You're showing me that one, you've got the attitude to go out and learn stuff. So do you know what? I can sit down with you in a day, show you some stuff, and I know that you'll do it. If you don't have a great attitude, then I'm having to rely on the skills that you have today. And number two is that you actually know something about what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And another one would be created, and sure, I'd love your view on this. For me, attitude actually comes down into three components. One is material and articulated vision. The second is determination and character. And the third is morals and backbone. So the first one is being able to say, I really want my job to mean something both to me and to the world. I've done a study of all of the roles in project management, having worked in it for 2 or 3 years. I've identified that this niche really suits my personality and where I want to go. I'm a data-driven person, blah, blah, blah. And I would very much like to transition to this senior forensics role, blah, blah, blah. Is that kind of framework something that you might recommend to people, or would you adjust my framework?
100%. And before you even ask that question, one of the things I was about to say was, in terms of attitude, part 2 was what you said, and then understanding, if you're an interviewer, when has the candidate got that experience of troubleshooting? When have they actually fought and got that success? Because that's what you're hiring for, so you don't get the downside. When there was a trouble situation, what did they do? How did they resolve it? Rather than just sit back and walk away from it. So
okay,
all of that combined.
A question on that. Does it have to be a troubleshooting situation in project controls, or can it be in another area of their career or their life?
It can be anything, I would say. Obviously, if it's in the industry, as a PM, that's probably better. However, it just the skills are so transferable. Of course, it could be. It doesn't have to be in project controls. It doesn't have to be a software glitch where there was an error in the schedule and it got changed. It's more about that personality side. So much has happened in terms of the stakeholder side, communication skills now. That's what's really key. Resolving situations. There's so much. Greg, obviously, you're so involved in the future of AI and efficiencies, and this is what's really going to be key going forward, is the communication side, and that's what you're hiring for, is that key skill set more than anything else from a soft skills point of view.
Which actually comes around. I'm gonna challenge Micah here. I'm gonna flip it around to both of you. So in the last podcast, Micah, I challenged Micah and I said, develop more scheduling skills or something else. I can't remember. And Micah chose interpersonal skills. To Micah and Chirag, if someone is transitioning from a project management role or a generalist role or an engineering role into project controls, what are the top 3 things that you would recommend that they focus on? You've said attitude is one, but I want more specifics than that.
Yeah, I'll go first. The 3 things, this is an interesting one because as a project manager, if they are a successful project manager, they probably actually already have interpersonal skills nailed because that is one of the core functions of a project manager. And so in this case, I'll become a hypocrite and I'll flip my answer. And I would say they need to polish up on their actual project control skills that they may deal with at a cursory level, but need to actually get into the finer bits and pieces of it. They may be having a cash flow provided to them, but they've never actually gone out, worked with accounting and finance, worked with their contractors and built a cash flow and presented it. Same with scheduling and other things like that. So I would say number 1 would be some skills around the cost side. Number 2, some skills around the scheduling side. And number 3, some project controls PMO related skills. How are they going to be taking that data, aggregating it up? What's the big picture of all of this? How does the cost and schedule blend together? So in this situation, my thought process is they probably have interpersonal skills. Brush up on that technical skill because you're going to probably field some questions like that in your interview.
Chirag?
Yeah, so just following on from Micah, I agree. If you will have the soft skills. So it is the technical side. So 90% of projects are through P6. So learn Primavera and start practicing on that, developing that. Number 2, find that mentor to teach you. So get taught how to do it. Practice is what I would say. And then just delve in a bit deeper into the bit you want to be. Do you want to be an all-round project controls engineer? Do you want to be a planner? And then if whatever you're looking at doing, just getting in there and learning it all. Read papers about it. There's so much out there.
Beautiful. I'll now circle all the way back round to the question at the start, which is you've got someone saying, I'm a generalist and I'm thinking about getting into project controls. How would I go about it? Chirag, is there any, because I know that you do stuff around the world, is there any major deviance between jobs in the US versus jobs in Europe versus jobs elsewhere in project controls?
No, I think the main thing is, for me personally, the skill sets are the same in terms, and again, the question you asked is about, you can be changing sectors as well, including working different countries. It's the same. What we see though is there's certain sectors, like you'll never get a rail person go into oil and gas and vice versa, whereas an oil and gas person can go into mining and pharma, data center very easily. Whereas, so that's quite. I know I've taken a bit of a tangent from your question because I think countries there's no difference. In the UK, you rarely hear of someone called a scheduler. Everyone's called a planner. It's very very rare it's a scheduler. That different names, but they're doing the same role.
Schedule or schedule?
Seeing as Chirag and I speak the Queen's English.
Well, she's not around anymore, so time for a new world
King's
order.
English now. But,
I keep her in here.
so I don't see too much. I think it's understanding again what sectors complement each other. Like I said, so you would see rail, highways, aviation in one bucket, oil and gas, pharma, mining, data centers in another. However, we do see, with the data center world, a little bit more openness and flexibility because it's such a new sector. So they're open to a lot more.
That's a really interesting point you've actually just mentioned. And just for everyone, I'll just reiterate that. It doesn't really matter about geography apart from the names change. So planners and schedulers. The same with, I've heard of cost engineers, and then you have cost managers and these kinds of things.
Yeah.
But what you've just said is it's very easy to switch industry. Yeah. So long as the grouping of the industry is
exactly.
Is relevant.
I I had a ridiculous question today about a candidate from the client. Are they an intermediate or junior? And I said, can you define what you mean by junior and what do you mean by intermediate? Because to me, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
I hope the client's not listening to this now. Otherwise
Well, in a couple of weeks they will be. So
I
we've reached our. Oh, go ahead. Do you have final thoughts, Greg?
No, I want a final question.
Go ahead.
So, final question, Chirag. This obviously this friend's come to you and they're saying, "Where should I focus?" Now, let's say that you've got 1 or 2 whiskeys back and you're feeling very open. Okay. What are currently the highest paid project controls jobs that you've seen? Job titles.
Highest paid is project controls manager, because that's obviously top of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
But as you focus, that mid-level chain where there's a little bit more roles, I would say risk. Risk is most in demand. And if you are someone that is good at risk and you've got a bit of an appetite, you've played around with it, get into risk, because the demand for that is high. So that means that pays a lot and people go above and beyond. The most volume for in project controls are planners or schedulers. But if it's the individual roles at the top end, project controls manager, because they're the one that runs it all, and then risk managers.
And a great way to get into risk is through planning and scheduling, folks.
It is. You have to do your QSRAs.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay, Chirag, that was wonderful. Any final thoughts you want the listeners to have?
What I would say is, if you are looking to transition, reach out, talk. If you are a bit confused, I'm happy. Reach out to me and I'll put you in touch. Whatever country you're in, I'll put you in touch with somebody for sure.
Absolutely. And then shout out the Project Controls Hub again. Where can people find that? We'll put some links in the show notes, but let us know about that.
Sure, great. No, that'd be fantastic. The controlshub.com. Also, if you're in the UK, get to our PCG networking events. We've got one in London on the 8th of Feb, hopefully if this is released before then, which Dale Fung and I are hosting, and there's plenty more to come.
Amazing. Well, Trek, thank you so much for coming on as our guest. We hope everyone has a great week. If you're looking to transition into a role, check the show notes. We'll put tons of links in there for information to help you. And if you are listening and you're liking, please share the episode, subscribe. It means the world to us and help keeps us going. From us at Beyond Deadlines, we'll catch you next week.
Cheers. Thank you.